Today we're going to talk about the various ways to hold a pencil to create different values. So we're going to be looking at light values, medium values, dark values, and how to create the shades in between those values. My class is going to be using this value chart poster to do a value scale and to practice shading with the pencil before we start going into rendering projects. So what I like to do is I want to give a quick tutorial on how to add different types of values from light to dark. And reality is it's just a trick. This is learned knowledge. Anybody can be taught this. This doesn't take any talent. The one thing I will be doing though, I will be moving the paper up sometimes because when the light hits the paper, you don't always see what's going on. So keep that in mind when I do the video. So if I want a light value, all I have to do is hold that pencil by the back. And when I hold it by the back, I'm basically just putting the pencil inside my fingers and that's keeping it in place. This is like really loose. I'm not holding onto it very tight. And I'll come in here and I do this for my warm-ups, especially if I'm shading. You want to get the feel for your hand on a daily basis because some days it might be heavier than others. And it's good just to practice and make sure that there's no inconsistencies in your lead that you need to work out. So I'm just going to start adding light values, and you might not see it on the camera. And generally when I do these types of videos, or tutorials I should say, I tend to go a little darker than I normally would because I want the camera to be able to pick it up. So right now you can barely see it. I'll put an arrow. So there's where that value is. If I want a medium value, I'm simply going to go from the back of the pencil to the middle of the pencil. And by doing this, I'm automatically going to get a medium value. Also notice the angle of the pencil is going to be very, very low. I'm not going to have the pencil like this. So I'll go through and I'll add a value, and you're going to get a nice, even, medium value. And by moving down on the pencil, I'm going to get a dark value. I generally don't go to the tip, I just go near the front. And without really adding any pressure, there's my dark base value. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to move this around so you can see the different values. And usually if I hold it up, you'll get an idea. So we want to look at and put notes down light values equals back of pencil. Medium values equals middle of pencil. And your dark values equals near tip of pencil. And this goes in regards to where you hold the pencil. So we're going to talk about how do we go between light and medium and between medium and dark and get all those values in between. So one of the things that I talk and teach in my class is if I need to add a darker value and I want to have full control over it, well, all I do is start adding pressure to the pencil, and that's that pinching motion. So here you see relaxed hand, and then you're going to see it pinch. So when I come down and I do a value, I'm going to start off with the light value. And again, I go a little bit darker than I normally would for the videos, just so you guys have a better chance of seeing the value. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start slightly squeezing, and you're going to see that I'm going to get this darker value. Now this is about as dark as I can get, squeezing the pencil, and then I'm going to ease up my hand and I'm going to go light. I'll show you that because the light's hitting it. So again, that light's going to hit it, so I want to be able to lift it up so you guys can see it. Okay, now if I go to the middle of my pencil and I put a value down, what you're going to notice is the lightest value I can put down is going to be fairly close or equal to the darkest value you could put with holding the pencil back here and squeezing as hard as you can. So these values are going to be very, very similar. So I'm just going to bring this down and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start pinching, and as I move up I'm going to start relaxing my hand and just blend that in. Okay, so this is holding the pencil in the middle and then pinching. So as I pinch, I'm going to get those darker values, and then I'll just relax my hand and I'll get those lighter values, which is a medium value. So again, I'll hold that up so you can see it. The lights to shoot the video, when they hit the pencil, they tend to shine, so sometimes you got to change the angles. Now I'm going to go towards the tip of my pencil, but not quite at the tip. And what you're going to notice is the lightest value I can get is close to the darkest value I can get while pinching the middle of the pencil. And then I'm just going to bring that down, and now I'm going to pinch, and I'm going to apply pressure, and I'm going to get my darkest values. So again, when you look at it, you can see how it gets much darker as I press harder, and then when I get to here, which is I'm barely holding the pencil, it's about the same as my darkest value from holding it in the middle and then pinching really, really hard. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Very easy, takes a little bit of practice, but you just got to get used to where you're holding your pencil, whether you're holding it in the back, are you holding it loose, are you pinching it, holding it tight? In the middle, again, are you holding it loose or are you pinching it, holding it tight? And then down here, are you holding it loose or are you pinching it tight? And that's going to control your lights and dark values. The other thing I want to talk about is, well, applying dark value. Because when you apply dark value, there's a couple of problems that you're going to have. If you just start putting down dark values, I'm going to point out a few things. I'm going to zoom in too so I can point these out. What you're going to get is you're going to get these streaks, and these streaks are going to have different, from like almost a white to like a dark gray to a black to a light gray, and it's going to be really inconsistent and really, really streaky. And you really want to avoid that streakiness. You want to have a nice smooth dark value. Well, adding value is a lot like painting. So if I'm painting a wall, painting a car, anything, furniture, I want to put a base coat down. And that base coat down is going to make sure that when I paint it, my paint and my color is going to be even across. So right next to this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the pencil in the middle. I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a nice gray value. And this is one of the little analogies I give in my class all the time. Graphite are like bullies. They like to push each other around. And the more they push each other around, the smoother they get. The other way you can look at it is a rock in a stream. As that rock continues to roll down the stream, it's going to get smoother and smoother and smoother. And when it's finished its journey, what you're going to have is a very round, very smooth, shiny pebble. It's the same process here. So I put down a nice little gray value, but I'm going to go back over it and I'm going to push a little bit harder. I'm going to squeeze a little bit with my pencil. But when I go over it, I'm going to go over it at a different angle. I'm not going to go straight across like I did before. And that's because I want to push that graphite at different angles. I don't want to just have it going one angle, one angle, one angle. I want to have multiple angles. And then I'll come back again and I'll do it at a different angle. So this is my third time going over it, and I'm basically just laying a base of graphite on the paper. So when I move down, and I'm going to turn it because I want to attack it at a different angle, I'm going to start putting my darker values down. If I'm doing an illustration like pencil and I need consistent, flat, non-streaky, dark values, I understand that there's a process and I'm going to have to go over an area multiple times. I'll only do this for a relatively small drawing. I don't want to do this process for big areas because it's time consuming. And if I had to do a really big illustration, I would just do it in charcoal. Uh, you know, use the tools as they're meant to be used. A pencil is great for drawing. A pencil is great for doing small illustrations. Pencil's not good for doing really big illustrations. You do really big illustrations, you need bigger tools. If I'm painting a big canvas, I'm not going to use a tiny little brush. I'm going to use bigger brushes. Same thing goes for illustration and drawings. I'm not going to use a tiny pencil to draw a big drawing. I'm going to use bigger materials like charcoal. And then if I'm using other things, if I was doing it in color, I wouldn't use color pencil for a big one, right? I'd want to use pastels. And if I didn't particularly want that look, then I would switch to paints. So according to the size of what you're doing, that should be one of the main factors in what you pick. Now, can you do a large pencil drawing? Yeah, but you're going to spend a ton of time. You got to understand that your time becomes exponential. So doing a drawing, let's say this size, which is a half a paper, it's a paper folded in half, 8.5 by 11. This might take you 4 or 5 hours to do, like a full rendered illustration. But if I did 11 by 17, it's not going to be 8 hours. It's going to be like 16 to 22 hours. The bigger the paper, the exponential amount of time you have to spend on it. It just doesn't double. So it's important to keep that in mind. So that's it. Couple of things. So let me show you, and I'll zoom in again so you can see this. So here you have streaky, just putting the straight black down, and then here you have where you build up those values. And often enough, these values are going into another value or another shading. So you're going to want to have some transition. You're going to want to have some softness to it. So that's it for today's tutorial. Just to recap, light values, medium values, dark values. And we'll call it a day.